Thank you for joining us on another Tuesday night. On behalf of First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo. Thank God it's Tuesday. Joined by my special friends here tonight. He, on your top left, wearing all caps, is Tim Strachan. Good to see you, sir.
Yeah, this one was in my rotation. It might not be their season right now. We don't know when it's going to start up, but got to
Well, they're
show
on
them
the
some
way.
love. I haven't shown DC love in a while.
DC appreciates it, Tim. On the bottom left, showing the Redskins hog love, is Kevin Ricka.
Hog love on a Tuesday. It doesn't get any more exciting than that this summer,
That's
and I'm
pretty
glad you
exciting.
found that out right away, Ken. You didn't wait much time for the hog love. Nice job.
Well, it's kind of how this is a Tuesday night. I'm solo mente, no Luke tonight. Luke promises us that he's on a beach chair somewhere enjoying our Tuesday night remotely. We do have Victor Maddox, the producer extraordinaire, joining us remotely as well. So appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. We're only doing one show tonight because we do only have the three of us this evening. So it's a pre-July 4th spectacular, and I can think of no finer way to spend a Tuesday night. And of course, I do have Benjamin here. He's hanging out with me. He's wearing a mask,
Yeah.
so he's following
You know,
protocol.
yeah. You started off as one of the greatest meat inspectors on the East Coast, and then right to Benjamin. I mean,
I know.
you got to do
I
what you
know.
got to do. USDA certified.
He does what he can. He does what he can. We are going to. So ordinarily we do a WCAC high school sports show first, and then we follow it up with our Thank God It's Tuesday. So we're just going to do a Thank God It's Tuesday. Good evening, James Rainey. Good evening, Greg Martin. Folks on the board as they trickle in, we'll make sure we keep them up to date on what's happening. But we are going to mix in a little high school at the top of the show, guys. We're not going to get away from talking about the greatest high school conference in the land, and we have to do it because one of our guys is making a lot of headlines, making a lot of waves. It's one of the top 5 players in the country, high school sports-wise, y'all, and he's plays in the
I can't hear
WCAC.
you, Ken.
You can't hear me.
You got that? You're cranking up the tooth. Luke goes away for a weekend, and you just go bonkers down there.
Little old crow medicine show. How's that, Kev?
The music is a little above you, but you know what? I'm going to fight through the good fight.
I'm gonna pull it down. I'm just trying to make it so that we keep Victor's attention. He's a big old crow medicine show guy. Caleb
Kev,
Williams.
I
What's
think it's
that?
personal because everything's fine for me.
It is. It's something going on between Kevin and I tonight. I don't understand it. I think it's Benjamin personally.
You started off punching me in my hog. I
I
mean,
did.
you know?
I did.
All right.
That's how I was taught, and you go straight for it every time.
Who,
The
who,
Straight
taught,
for the
who
hog.
taught you this? Who taught this technique to you?
I learned it by watching you, actually, Kevin, which is a true fact. Well, for two quarterbacks, two of the finest quarterbacks that come out of the WCAC, Tim Strachan and Kevin Ricka, I think that it's just appropriate that we're here to talk about, at the top of the show, one of the best, if not the best, high school quarterback in the entire country, going into his senior year with, we don't know what's going to happen in high school sports. We've had a chance to see him the whole way, from the time he first stepped on the foot at Gonzaga College High School down there on I Street, wearing that purple. Our first big game that we called was the championship in November of 2018, I think it was. Shoot, it feels like 10 years ago. Against DeMatha, one of the most exciting football games, probably the most exciting football game I've ever seen. Most people could probably agree with that. And you could say it was a coming out party for Caleb Williams. He had a great night. I haven't seen him have a bad day. So it was a good day for Caleb Williams. It was a great day for high school sports. But guys, Kevin, I'll let you get things started because Caleb is at the Elite 11 right now, and he's tearing it up, from what I understand.
Yeah, he went in there ranked as the number one guy, but those are just rankings. That's not football, and it's also not competing against 19 of the other greatest quarterbacks in the country. He ended day one. He solidified his spot as the number one quarterback in the nation. And I'll tell you right now, and I know you guys are probably right there with me. I think we've all agreed on this. I think he's the best high school football player in the country heading into this football season. I think he's proven that today. One of the quotes, there's 3 different publications following the Elite 11. All 3 ranked him as the number one guy coming in, and certainly as the number one guy after yesterday's practice. Let me just read you the one quote here, Ken. Caleb Williams was a man amongst boys at this Elite 11. He left onlookers utterly dumbfounded all night. Easily the best velocity, accuracy, and spiral of all in the field, and it's not really close. Suggesting his best competition may be Elite 11 peer coach and Ohio State starting quarterback Justin Fields would be his only competition during that environment. Unreal.
So, I mean, T, we've had a chance to be up close and personal to watching him play ball, and everyone, people who are watching us, folks obviously as far away as Wales and the United Kingdom. Greg's up in the north. James Rainey is. I mean, we're legally not allowed to say where James Rainey is. But our team of folks, they think we're just, why are they talking about this high school player? Because you can tell when a guy is special. And none of us went to Gonzaga, and it gives, with a tongue-in-cheek smile on our face, it gives us no pleasure to talk. We don't want to talk up Gonzaga guys because that was a rival of ours. Guess what? He's awesome. We knew it the first time we saw him play. We knew it the first time we saw the ball come off his hand. Greg, he's a quarterback, and he's not going to end up being a running back anywhere. He's going to end up being a quarterback. And T, a little something about spinning the ball. It looks different when he does it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a special talent, and you don't need to take it from us. I mean, there are, plenty of Division Power 5 schools right now that would love to take him. It's come down to 3 in LSU, Alabama, or LSU, the third one, Maryland, and
Oklahoma,
which many people say has the inside track right now. So those are 3 coaches right there that know a whole hell of a lot more about football than the 3 of us, and they're all really seriously going after this kid. And what's great about what's happening now with the Elite 11, one, there's competition happening. There's something to follow and watch. 2, he gets to prove it on the field, and he's doing that, right? So now it doesn't have to be speculation. There's a lot of people who are doubting it. That comes with the territory. This kid has proven it every single time. What I find most impressive about him is that his sophomore year, it was more of an air attack. He had to throw the ball a lot more. That was really impressive. We all saw what he did in the championship game, obviously winning it on that Hail Mary. But then last year, it was about the ground game. And the way he won games with his legs instead of his arm, well, me. I didn't know he had that kind of athleticism. Now, if he can put those 2 together for his senior year, he's going to be awesome to watch. Gonzaga is going to be a team that you have to watch out for. And I think from the WCAC's perspective, even though he goes to Gonzaga and I'm a DeMatha guy, I'm pulling for him. I'm pulling for him through and through. The young man has done everything that's asked of him. He makes a lot of the right choices and doesn't bring attention to himself. He's doing what he does. And, I'm supporting him, and I'm glad on day 1 he finished strong.
Well, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, no, Ken, don't keep telling me to go ahead with this guy. We'll be here for 4 hours. I can't get enough of him. You know how I feel about the kid. 6'2", 210, with everything he just talked about. But the night we were there, all 3 of us witnessed his coming out party. He was, with 7 minutes and 47 seconds left on the clock in the game, he led his team to 4 consecutive drives, 9 of 13 for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns, 6 rushes for 70 yards, and 2 more, including a 55-yard Hail Mary that threw 70 yards. What we saw in that final 7:47 will never leave my mind. He was a colt then. He was a child. He's a man now. He carries that 6'2", 210 like it looks like he's 190. Kid runs a 4.5 and has the premier arm strength and accuracy of anyone down at this Elite 11 that they're talking about. This is a guy that you're talking about in the future. When Dwayne Haskins' contract is up, he could be a top 10 draft pick. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Greg, I get it. First of all, he's going to be a senior this year. He was a sophomore when we saw him, and I understand Nobody wants to crown high school players. That's not what we're doing.
Oh no, he's proven it.
He has proven it, and
at this level.
And it's so college has long been a game where a running quarterback could succeed that didn't have a good arm. But now in the National Football League, you're looking at guys who put the really awesome ground game skills with the amazing arm skills, and it becomes somewhat unguardable. It's becoming more and more a thing. He's that kind of guy. And if you look at Kevin, I want you to speak to this because I get a little bit excited when I talk about it. The things that he does well, athletically, agility-wise, and muscle memory-wise, it's not at a high school level. We bit our tongue a dozen times a game that we watched him to not say names like Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, and yet that's what he was doing. The throwing, moving to the right and throwing to the left to the far side past the hash, moving backwards and throwing it 40 yards on a dart, stepping up to the line of scrimmage and then dropping back and progressing through multiple options before making the right decision and still not getting hit hard by a defender. Those are things when you watch the game of football. That's something you can't get away from it, Kevin. I mean, what he does well. That's the kind of thing that translates all the way to the top.
So T and I have an ongoing argument with T's older brother. I won't mention any names. He has 3 older brothers. You can figure it out at some point. But it's a tough nut to crack being a quarterback, getting to the next level. And I understand that portion of it. But what I've seen this kid do, you've heard me talk about his feet. I think we talk about his premier arm. He is five steps deep in the pocket. Rush is coming at him. I want you to pretend that you're on a high school hardwood floor in an office chair like I'm in right now. It seems to me he has the ability to 2-foot push in the office chair at a backwards angle, away from the rush, away from the receiving core, with the arm strength to find that guy coming out of anywhere and the vision to know where everyone is. And to watch him work on it the whole quarantine, some of the footwork and some of the things, he's actually working on it like an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson would, making throws off the wrong foot, throwing off unbalanced, throwing the wrong way, and putting the ball where no one can catch it but the receiver. I'm a huge believer in this kid. I think he's the best. He's the best I've ever seen. I know that. I'm not going to try and convince anyone else. You can just Google that name, Caleb Williams, and make up a decision for yourself. But, man, what a talent to watch play. One of the main reasons, man, we better have that high school season this fall.
Raymond always brings the data. There's no doubt about it. He's got the stats. But he brought sports science with him tonight. That was pretty impressive.
Science?
What is that push-off energy to poundage
off
rate?
His chair?
Yeah.
Off the chair.
Yeah. He's got it, man. He's got it.
It wasn't math, but science, that's a new one. Look, here's the unfortunate thing for Caleb Williams. Okay, I already said it once before, there's going to be people who doubt him. And as the number 1 quarterback in the nation, you can only go down. So, you're going to have your naysayers, you're going to have your critics that are always going to be that way. Caleb just needs to keep being Caleb and doing what he does. The bottom line is when you win like he's been winning, the way he's been winning, it doesn't matter what anybody else's opinion is. And I hope he continues to do it this year and for many years to come.
He will. I believe it. We all believe it. And, if you want to know why 3 guys are leading off their weekly show talking about a kid who's going into a senior year of high school, just remember, before I forget, there you go. Get a little.
Just for perspective,
a little bug
I
put
was
up.
once ranked top 5, and I'm now just doing podcasts in basements on Tuesday nights. So
you were once in the top 2, first of all.
Definitely doing better than that.
Yeah, well, it's a decent comparison. You were one of the best in the country at the high school level, and that's what we're talking about here. But I just put up there it is. I just put up the logo on the corner of the screen so that people will understand we started doing this together to talk about football. That's what we started doing when we got together. We were going to talk about football. It's grown to more than just football. We went to the same we all went to schools in the same conference, and we decided we got to cover that conference because it's puts out not just some of the best players, but some of the best teams, and by far the best coaches. And we cut our teeth doing this, watching Caleb Williams. This is a kid who was playing high school football at the very moment we started doing what we're doing, and he proved the point to what we were trying to make to people, which was if you let us cover this league and you let us tell this league story, you know, everyone's going to know what we're trying to tell them, which is that these are the kinds of kids, boys and girls for that matter, that compete in this high school conference, and that's what we do. We talk about it because we love it, and so none of us went to Gonzaga, and I say with a smile on my face that we have buddies, closest friends, brothers that went to Gonzaga. My college roommates were both from Gonzaga. We lost Kevin there.
Down.
Kevin's down.
Kevin's down.
He'll get it. He'll get it back.
I think family text is ruining my.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're good. You're good. You total recovery. But just to put it tied in a bow, he is just a one example, a very bright and shiny example, but just one example of really why we started doing what we do. These are the kinds of conversations we had before we ever had microphones and lights and cameras. We would sit around, have a drink, and talk about high school games we went to, talk about Redskins games like we're about to talk about in a couple of minutes, and talk about football. And if you love football and you see a kid like Caleb Williams play, or Raheem Jarrett, for that matter, or Chris Jenkins or Mr. Melton, as we call him here in the basement. If you see guys like that compete on the field, there's just one thing that occurs to you. These guys are damn good football players, and they'll play as far as they want. And Caleb's a perfect example of that.
But before we get done talking about Caleb,
yep.
I'm gonna freak T-Bird out a little bit. I also just want to say, pay attention to anyone watching. That's the biggest commitment. It's happening this Saturday, July 4th. We're going to announce his decision. The LSU's in the mix, but it's between Oklahoma and Maryland. And outside of this part of the world, everyone thinks it's 90% Oklahoma. I'm telling you guys right now, I got it all figured out. Caleb Williams is going to be a Maryland Terrapin. I think it's down to 50-50 right now from what I've noticed. I've had a few conversations today that blew my mind, and I did something to prove to you guys that I'm going to be right about this. Caleb Williams is from Northern Virginia.
Okay.
The 703. He played his high school football in the 202, Washington, D.C. And if he commits to College Park, he'd be in the 301, making him Mr. DMV. Now, follow me real quick.
Yep.
7 plus 0 plus 3 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3 plus 0 plus 1 equals 18.
Yes,
fellas.
it does.
And it's obviously I just solved it.
Numerology.
Thank you for letting me admit that to everyone.
Doug Wapner comes on in 15 minutes.
Numerology. Take that, Greg Martin.
I had to. You heard it here first.
He's
gonna be a turd. He's gonna be a turd.
I like that you said that because I believe it as well. I thought I was stepping out on some super thin, not so generous ice when I was all over rock, making his way to College Park, and he really did. That was a top story on ESPN the day he decided.
I told you that one too.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I told that one from the jump, Ken.
I know. We had.
I did want to tell you.
We're getting the Loxley, who's the head coach at Maryland, former assistant to Saban down in Alabama. He has made it he's made it a mission to lock up this talent in the DC area. More and more, Greg, since you're really engaging on this, and James for that matter, more and more you're seeing people recognizing that the top talent is coming from this area. They're just not staying in this area. And what we've seen in the last year with Loxley, he's locked up some of the top talent from this area. Now, they got to get on the field and play and show people what they're up to and actually get some big wins in a conference like the Big Ten where they have some chances to make some statements, but we'll just leave it at that. But for the time being, a guy like Caleb Williams going to Maryland a few years ago was not ever even a possibility. And now it's more than just a possibility. I think it's like Kevin. I'm willing to say he's staying. I'll throw
As
that
local guys, we gotta believe that that's what's going to happen. We had Loxley on this show. you didn't get a chance to see it, go back. But it was like about a month and a half ago. We had him on. He got to tell us about his philosophy and what he's doing. And now you're going to start seeing. I see it on Twitter already. He's created a buzz. He's created a buzz, and people are getting excited about it. People are talking about it all over the place. It's also happening in basketball. There's some great things, I think, happening out in College Park. It would not surprise me if Caleb makes the decision to go to Maryland. And as a Maryland fan, and my ties to Maryland and my ties to Mike Loxley, I know he can get it done. And I'm pulling for it, man. That'd be awesome. That's going to be one very talented, crowded quarterback room at the University of Maryland.
And I guess I hope you guys don't mind me speaking for all three of us when I say whatever he decides, we wish him nothing but the best. Obviously,
yeah,
of course. Whatever he and any of the talented individuals coming out of the league, wherever they go, they're going to make everybody proud. So he's got to do what's best for him, got to do what's best for his family. Sometimes I don't envy that kind of a call, especially when it's going to end up on like ESPN or something, and some college fan base is going to hate him, and some college fan base is going to love him.
Hey, look, we love him. We're going to root for him wherever he is.
That's right.
Listen, Oklahoma has Spencer Rattler, a 5-star from 2 years ago. His younger brother just committed to Maryland. If I'm him, I'm not worried about that, and I don't think he is. He's just trying to find the best fit for Caleb, and when he makes that fit, we're going to be right behind him because, man, we've done 6 of his games, fellas. We've seen him grow up. We've watched him. We've called him, and I can imagine he has 3 bigger non-Gonzaga fans than are right here tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take it from there. And I was going to just quickly, I know some guys are waiting to do it, raise my glass up for Joe Bugle. May he rest in peace. Very sad day to see that he left us. But, he was, the architect of the Hogs. I would say there's no Hogs Haven without Joe Bugle. There's about countless other more important things that obviously wouldn't have happened without Joe Bugle. Our website just being one of them, as it is dedicated to something that he helped create as the boss hog himself. So it was. I just thought we'd kick it off with the news. It wasn't like I didn't know if he was it was imminent or anything like that. When I saw the news, it hit me a little bit tough because I had just talking to you guys about this. I had just finished having a conversation with a buddy, Red, actually, as you guys know, and we were just talking. We were a couple years apart, and we were talking about the '80s. And he was talking about cartoons and TV shows and all these toys and kind of like that era where kind of everything was made to sell stuff. Every show and cartoon and they were all selling figurines and action figures. And I said, that's true. But for me, the 80s wasn't really about that. For me, the 80s was about the Redskins. When I think about the 80s, growing up, I was born in '76. We were all born around that same time. So we were super young when they played that game against the Miami Dolphins and John Riggins took it to the house. But for that entire decade, life was somewhat, as a sports fan, it was somewhat defined by watching the Redskins. And that meant watching the Hogs. They were the face of our team. We had different quarterbacks, different running backs, different stars at various other positions. But it was weird. The face of a National Football League organization was, 6, big fat sweaty guys just making it happen for everything. And that doesn't happen very often. And what better tribute could you make to a guy like Joe Bugle? He made that happen.
It swept the nation. I remember being a kid. I remember that game, obviously. I remember that play. It's a memory that I have, but I also have memories of the build-up to it, right? I remember just being in town or being, going around and people getting so excited and Redskin paraphernalia everywhere, people talking about it at the Safeway. It was my first, at that time, introduction to what football is more than just a game on the field. It became, a community thing. And it was so awesome to be, so young and in at that time.
Yeah, T-Bird. And backing up what Ken said, not many things could make Charlie's Angels and Daisy Duke second and third. The Washington Redskins, and that was the height of the era. In fact, since the time in 1982 when Joe Bugle looked over at Russ Grimm, whose nickname was Porky, and told those boys, let's go over here and do some work, you hog. And that moment in time, Joe Bugle said that. The next 10 years from the time that rolled off of his tongue was the best 10 years in the history of football for the Redskins and all of us. I actually shockingly crunched the numbers. In that 10-year span, the Redskins went 122-49, including the playoffs in 10 years, 122-49. The 49ers were the only team that came close, 120-49-1. So for 10 years, we had the premier football team in the NFL, in the universe, in the solar system. And that's what I hope guys like Rhett and the guys that are a generation below us can understand. And Joe Bugle, from the time those words came out of his mouth about the Hogs, from the time the nickname was donned, that's the man that set us on that path of the greatest decade in the history of our franchise.
I think about, go ahead, T.
It was done old school style, right? I mean, Hogs. Everybody talks about the bare, bones of football is about the line of scrimmage. The Hogs were the epitome of that. Joe Bugle is the epitome of the line coach that creates that. He is, and I think the game, truthfully, is missing that type of character. I know there's some out there, but it's not a criticism of the coaches today. It's just, again, more special as to what Joe Bugle was, and his passion for the game, and some of the stories you now are reading and hearing and seeing about him. It was an awesome time for football, and to be a line coach like him, with the line that he had for that long, to be that dominant was just incredible.
Kevin, Greg's asking, was that stat 80 to 89?
That stat. So, listen, I do understand Greg is saying, I know that 90 and 91, Joe Bugle was the head coach of the Phoenix Cardinals. But what he had set in place was from 1982, training camp, when the nickname was donned, until 1991, that 10-year stretch. And I understand Joe Bugle was not there for all 10. He was there for 8 of the 10. I get that. But we understand this. Between Jacoby, Grimm, Bostic, and Donnie Warren, those 4 guys were there when the nickname was given in 1982. And those 4 guys played together for that 10-year stretch. That type of continuity, the culture set, the understanding of Joe Bugle, having to move on to be a head coach because he was so talented as an O-line coach of what he had done. So that's the era I'm talking about, the Redskins Super Bowl era. 5 NFC East titles, 4 NFC Conference Championship titles, and 3 Super Bowl titles. Only the San Francisco 49ers had 3 during that stretch. And you have to understand, during that era, you got the New York Giants with Bill Parcells, Lawrence Taylor, and that nasty squad. The 85 Bears and everything they did throughout the 80s. You got San Francisco, the team of the 80s in everyone's mind. If we beat the Raiders in Super Bowl 18, they're not talking about San Fran, they're talking about us. Not to mention on the other side, with Miami, Denver, Buffalo, all these teams having huge – Denver. I mean,
Denver.
These teams were nasty. The Bengals and the Browns were nasty then.
Sammy Weiss.
Making runs in the playoffs. The NFL, there was 10 teams that could win it, maybe 12, versus now where I think there's 4 or 5 on a yearly basis. So during that era, that ridiculous era, the highest era of the NFC East, that's when we did our best work because it got done in the trenches with Bugh, our man, who deserves to be the 50th inductee to the Ring of Honor as soon as possible. Let's get that done instantly.
Well, that's got to happen this year. I was actually surprised that his name wasn't up there, but
me too. Shocked.
I would have if someone asked me because I've been in that stadium. I mean, I've lived in that stadium. If someone said it's Joe Bugle's name in there, I would say, of course it is. I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Right.
I didn't even know that. But I was gonna say like another thing about the made Joe Bugle. So he's a throwback coach first and foremost, right? He was the kind of the coach that didn't let you take water breaks, the coach that made you do one extra rep when you which had no business doing it. His players loved him. They would have done anything for him. They did everything for him. When we got Joe Gibbs back and they made the press release that said Dan Snyder had convinced Joe Gibbs to come back. it was that was cool enough. Like just the idea that Joe Jackson was going to be back on the sidelines for the Redskins and help us figure out what the hell's wrong with this organization. But if you remember, it when it was the announcement that he had gotten Joe Bugle to come back with him that made everyone go really crazy nuts.
Getting
Everyone,
the band back.
what's that?
Getting the band back together.
Getting the band back together, but the idea that Joe
Well,
Gibbs was coming back with Joe Bugle, because that meant okay. So Joe Gibbs was famous as kind of, I mean, obviously he came up in Air Coryell. He's a gifted offensive mind, a great coach, and a good coach of coaches. And he put together staffs that, I mean, I don't think anyone made adjustments at halftime like a Joe Gibbs coaching staff ever. But he kind of had that CEO look to him by the time he came back, and you wondered if it was enough. You hoped it would be, and we were all willing to believe it was. But when he said he was bringing back Joe Bugle, that meant something. That meant that there was going to be something happening on the practice field, something going to be happening in training camp that was not happening now or at the time, and it was about to get started, and that meant we had a chance. And that was what Joe Bugle brought, the slobber knocker. And if you guys remember, and I wish we could play it. If Luke was here tonight, we'd probably figure out a way to play the clip. When Joe Bugle talked about why he was coming back and what he wanted to do. And he was like spitting, like as he was talking, he was like talking into a microphone, like to a reporter, and he was getting so fired up. I mean, he was probably. I'm surprised he didn't drop a couple f-bombs. He had one of the dirtiest mouths I've ever heard. I don't know how he contained himself, but it meant the Redskins had a chance to be good because he was coming back. Go ahead, Kev.
Ken, he brought us right back into where we needed to be, right in the top 5 to 8 and rushing in the NFL for back-to-back seasons. Clinton Portis had to be the happiest guy in the world when that went down, except for one other guy, Chris Samuels, because he was very instrumental in Chris Samuels' ridiculous career here, superstar Redskin, an absolute stud. Him getting back into the game after coaching as the head coach at Phoenix, he was the head coach for the Raiders, didn't have a tremendous amount of success as the head coach. Two very, crappy situations at the time, to be honest with you. Nothing like the organization he had come from, but he had to give it a whirl, and he had no regrets about coming back home, back to where the hog farmer got started on day one. And man, I remember being so excited watching his presser. I knew right then and there was going to be no more messing around. We were going to run that ball right up your ass and play tough D and hang on and try and win games in the fourth quarter. And that's what we did, and that's what we did the best. And that's how we won those 3 Super Bowls. And I loved having him back. And you know what? God bless him and his family, because he has given us and our families everything we could possibly hope for. And we get to tell these stories to the younger ones that may not have been around those days.
Yeah, I mean, that when you would go to school in the morning in the 80s, you would hear a diesel sound. You would hear there would be and it wasn't a report on the Redskins. It wasn't we're going to interview John Riggins or Joe Gibbs or Doug Williams or Joe Theismann. They just played diesel sounds just randomly, and you just knew what it was all about.
Nose, brother?
People wearing the hog noses all around. I mean, Doc Walker, bless his soul, who's been very good to us. I mean, he had to basically like con his way onto the Hogs. He'll sign his thing, original member of the Hogs, and
original OG.
He got into that club. He was there. I know he put some sweat and tears on that practice field, but it was something you wanted to be a part of. And as fans growing up, I mean, I don't think you could recreate it. That's why I feel bad for like guys like Rhett and some of our other friends who are just like 5, 6, 7 years younger than us. Who, I mean, and I won't go down this rabbit hole too far, guys. But this is the problem with the Redskins over the last 20 years. They would try to like commercialize it in a terrible way. Like even Trent went down the road to try to do Hogs 2.0.
Hogs 2.0, yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's nothing. They didn't try. They just were, and that's what made us great. That's what made it fun. When you got together with your family and your friends after church on Sundays to watch the Washington Redskins, you knew what you were signing up for. It was going to be a bare knuckle fight with Tom Landry or Bill Parcells or in the playoffs, or by the time you got to the Super Bowl with some of the best coaches and defenses in the league, and you knew that when they called the number and they needed a play, it was going to be a running play, and they were going to get it, and that's exactly what happened. And I would love to see something like that happen again, but I have a hard time seeing it.
Well, it's a different league now, brother. You know, you still got to run the ball at the end of games, and of course, when the playoffs comes around, you got to be able to move the ball on the ground. But guys like Patrick Mahomes and the rules of the league, you know, they're changing it up. There will never be another Joe Bugle. There won't be another Hog. There just won't be. What's a nickname for 5 guys that weigh 320 pounds that are great pass blockers? Because that's about as close as we're going to get. That will never happen again. There will never be a nickname like that. There hasn't been one. Can anyone think of another offensive line with a nickname at any level? No. It all stems from this. We invented this. In fact, we invented a lot of nicknames. Those 80s teams, I mean, Capital Punishment, the Smurfs, the Fun Bunch, the Pearl Harbor Gang. I mean, I'm just saying, those things existed. We were all over the place. We had towels. We had hog noses. Daniel Snyder would have had a marketing frenzy.
Yeah, he would have killed it.
He would have made billions.
He would have killed it. He would have squashed
instead,
it.
We just loved it, and it just brought us all together as fans, made us closer to the team and each other. It was a truly special time, and we all, you know, it was the heartbeat of the city. On Mondays, we were looking at each other at bus stops, water coolers, and desks, going, man, kicked ass again.
Yeah, and like you said, like it wasn't manufactured. It was very real, and we all felt like it belonged to us. That's the biggest difference. Maybe that's the best way I could say it. We didn't pay a dime for it, ever. Right. It was just ours. Like we owned it, and no one could take it from us.
That's what I was talking about. Like when you went to the Safeway, and it was the buzz of everybody. You know, people are talking about it inside. You hear about it outside. You turn on the radio, it's on. You know, just that feeling of how the Redskins, you know, at that time, lifted the spirits of the city. You know, that was my first experience with that. Now we've seen recently with the Caps and the Nats what this city turns into when they have a contender like that. These kids that have never seen this on the football side of it, if the Redskins, this new blood can find, you know, a way to get back there, they have no idea what they're about to see.
Ken, let me just say one thing to team. This is what I want. I want the three of us to tell these young kids this. The average hog weighed about 275 pounds, was drafted in the late 5th round, had 2 Super Bowl rings and 1 Pro Bowl appearance. That's what the average hog had. That's something serious, man. That's not your everyday offensive line. That's big time. And the size is a little odd, but that's just how it was then. As the game has grown at many levels. But the average hog was a late 5th round draft choice, and had a couple rings and a couple in a Hawaii trip. That's just a medial guy.
Rather than ice tubs after practice, it was a 6-pack each.
5 o'clock club, brother. They all talked about it this week. We got to see them all, and Theismann wasn't invited.
No, he wasn't. There was a lot of people that weren't invited.
They weren't that pretty. They see these kids getting in ice tubs, and they're thinking, what an idiot. That's where we used to put our beer.
Yeah. Well, so I have to bore you with a quick story about that because you brought it up. At Russ Grimm's Hall of Fame induction, which is where I actually got a chance to talk to Joe Bugle. He was 70 years old at the time, and he was just loving life and loving the fact that his guy was getting into the Hall. They had, on the grounds of Canton, every player who goes in gets a party thrown by their organization. So I think, I want to remember. I want to say Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith were both in that class. And so you get these huge tents and these parties. Jerry Rice was like a black tie affair. I looked through the tent when I was over there. John Legend was tickling the ivories, playing in front of people wearing tuxes. Emmitt Smith had like a VIP. I mean, if you can imagine. I mean, he brought half the state of Texas, and it was every name you could think of that had come through Dallas, and they were all hanging out and partying. And they were going back and forth between Emmett and Jerry Rice's parties, and it was nuts. I was fortunate enough. I just started working at Hogs Haven. We've been running it for about a year. We got on the list. Joe Gibbs ended up being the one who got us in. Separate story. But we walk in this huge tent, watching people around us wearing tuxes, going into their John Legend VIP parties all around. This is a high school campus, everybody, at Canton. A high school campus is where the Professional Football Hall of Fame is. These kids go to high school there. And on that day, they have these gigantic tents erected where they have these crazy parties. You walk through the door for Russ Grimm's Hall of Fame induction party thrown by the Washington Redskins. It's a giant tent. And in the middle of it is a little tiki hut. That's it. That's all it was. And it said 5 o'clock club. And there was a mountain. When I say mountain, I've never seen a mountain of canned beer the way I saw a mountain of canned beer. Now, there was rumors they had cocktails and they were serving mixed drinks somewhere. I didn't see them. I certainly didn't drink them because everybody was there wearing shorts, T-shirts, maybe a short sleeve button down. There was no tie. There ain't no banker uniform. And the lasting memory for me, and there's a lot of them, and I could talk to you all night long about them, but I'll just give you the one. Russ Grimm and Joe Jacoby are sitting chatting it up, and they're in one hand 2 unopened cans of beer, in the other hand 2 cans of beer, the top one open, the bottom one unopened. They were drinking 4 canned beers at a time, and their hands almost covered 2 full beers. I'd never seen anything like it. I must have had a smile from here to here. I can't even tell all the stories that happened that night without probably getting in trouble. But all I do remember is how those guys got after it. Again, the 5 o'clock club. There was nothing pretentious about it. There was no, $100,000 singer playing. There wasn't even a band. There was just these guys were just getting after it in a way like I couldn't even imagine.
We can hear that band next door. We're fine.
Yeah, I mean, maybe someone was like holding up their phone like for some music. I mean, it was unreal, and the 5 o'clock club is real. It is so amazing. It lives to this day, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for Joe Bugle and for all the work he did, and just for the amazing things that the Washington Redskins stood for when he was on the sidelines, especially when he stood next to Joe Gibbs and Richie Pettibone and put those teams on their backs. So once again, may he rest in peace, and may we see better days. Being inspired, by men like Joe Bugle. Thought I might transition from that thought to the idea that maybe we do have a man who can attempt to live up to that kind of leadership and inspiration in Ron Rivera. And we'll leave it at Ron. I know there's some people on the board that want to talk about some of the other coaches. Until we see it happen, it's got to be up to Ron. Whatever the other coordinators and position coaches do and say, and whatever they're up to between now and whenever a game gets played, Ron Rivera's got to be the guy. He has got to be the guy, and we've said it before that we think he is the guy. And if the Washington Redskins have any chance, it has to be because of a guy like Ron Rivera, who we should be lucky enough, feel lucky enough to have gotten. So. Maybe we transition. I know I wanted to do a little bit, Kevin. You had pulled up some stats. Again, we don't hide from the reality. We don't hide from who we are and what we are at this juncture in time. I think one thing we've done a good job of on this show since we started sitting down and doing this is trying to find where that line is that we can draw and say, all right, wasn't so good on this side of that line. Is there a reason to think that it's going to be different on this side of the line? So we drew that line, and Kevin, I know you put some numbers together to kind of show what side of that line we're on.
Ken, I have to be honest with you. I have no idea which numbers I'm supposed to reference right now.
Just what the Redskins have done over the last decade.
Yes. Sorry, I thought we were talking about the Hogs a little bit. My bad. I did hog stuff, Ken. We have to get back at it.
We're coming back to the Hogs. I just
I
wanted.
didn't mean that. I meant what I wanted to say real fast was what
Yeah.
Rivera and Joe Bugle and Gibbs have in common is they care about the man. Yes, they've had success coaching football, tremendous success. Rivera hasn't won one, but he's been to one. But he cares about the man, the family atmosphere and culture. That's exactly what they have in common. Let's hope that translates. But getting back to recent numbers, we did the decade, Ken. We did the decade.
Yep.
And it wasn't a good one for us.
Nope.
But you know what? We weren't the worst. We did not receive the golden, silver, or bronze turd award. We were a fourth place loser. Fourth worst record in the NFL over the last decade, starting in 2010. Who had a worse record than us, boys?
I think Cleveland has to have had a worse record than us.
Boy, did they. We got them by 20 games in the win column. That's atrocious. Cleveland has averaged 4.2 wins a year for a decade. They got 42 wins in 10 years.
Do we stay
Is
AFC? What's that, T?
Is Buffalo one of them?
Buffalo is in the top 10, Seabird. They are 10th, but they're not ahead of us or below us or however it needs to be described.
The Bengals. Their Bengals are better than us in the last 10 years?
The Bengals had a good stretch. The Bengals had Carson Palmer. The Bengals are 77, 81, and 2 in the decade.
Okay. Greg Martin is guessing the Cardinals.
Now, the Cardinals had some good runs as well. They went to a Super Bowl in the decade.
I'm going to say Miami.
83 and 2.
Dolphins?
The Dolphins are tied with the Giants in 8th place, 70 and 90.
Detroit.
You know, I would have thought Detroit. I would have said them right away and would have been wrong. 72, 87, and 1. They won 10 more games than we did.
The Jets.
I thought that too. Jets were 6. All these crap-ass teams did a little better than us. Now let's focus. One of them is stunk for eternity. In fact,
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes. Now here's why they stink. 59 and 101. 3 teams lost 100 games in the decade. They are one of them, along with the Browns, obviously.
Yep.
The Bucs never won a division and never had a playoff appearance, nor did the Browns. That's terrible. Those are the only 2 with no playoff postseason. You got one more. One of the most recent franchises.
Jacksonville.
51 and 109. There's your 3, boys. Those 3 lost 100.
It was one game away.
We avoided it. Hey, 62, 97, and 1. That's what we just went through for 10 years. Let's put a stop to that.
That's the line I want to draw. I want to say, let's put that behind us. It's so great. We start a new decade. We finally got a new coach, a new person, the director of personnel, a new identity with regard to how we're going to operate our team, going from the general manager-centric model that we failed at ever since Dan Snyder took over the team to a coach-centric model where you say, please, Ron Rivera, take over our team and make whatever decisions that you think are going to be better than the ones we've been making.
Just for perspective, the Patriots 125 and 35, 10 straight division titles, and if you include the playoffs, guys, in this last decade, they were 141 and 42. They almost won 100 more games than they won.
That is amazing.
It's sick, right? Oh.
Well,
that is amazing.
So 3 times more almost than the Browns.
I mean, how bad is the AFC division that gives a team 10 years of 12 wins a year and 10 division titles? Shame on them.
We will take this title again this year.
What's that?
Yeah, man, that's tough. I'm just saying that's brutal to me. We got 2 at least. All these other crappy teams don't have much or any. No, 2012, 2015. I know I celebrated both those nights. I know you guys did too. So.
Yeah, we did. All right. Well, we got any more hog stuff to cover before we transition away?
Now you're confusing me. Now
Any
you're going back to hog stuff.
Any other hog stuff? Well, if we have some hog stuff, I don't want to.
I was just going to ask you. All right, how about this? Here we go.
Yeah.
I'll go real fast. See if you can answer out there. I want to see the board going.
Yep.
We'll keep it fast. How many hogs weighed over 300 pounds?
I was going to say one. Joe Jacoby.
Jacoby was listed at 295.
Ah.
These are conspicuous guys, but it's crazy to me. Hey, Super Bowl 17 and 22, we averaged less than 275 pounds on the line. By 26, we're at 287. The game has evolved. For perspective, all 5 WCAC teams we covered last year had offensive lines that weighed over 300 pounds.
Yep.
So the game has changed a tad bit. Ed Simmons at 315, and the ageless Ray Brown.
Ray Brown. Oh,
at 318. Yep. Yeah. All right. I want to know the highest drafted hog. The highest draft pick who was a hog. There's 2 answers here that I will accept.
Will you accept
drafted
Russ?
one of them. We only drafted one of them.
Russ Grimm.
Russ Grimm was 3rd, T. He was the 3rd round pick.
Jim Lachey.
Jim Lachey was number 1. He was
Yeah.
the first rounder, the number 12 selection. But we got him in a trade. So the highest hog ever drafted by us.
So Jim Lachey is we didn't draft him, but he was one of the highest drafted hogs.
There's we have 1 first rounder that we drafted. It's an odd, you know. I wouldn't have remembered it.
Like George Stark or Mark May, one of those guys.
You got it, brother. Mark May.
Mark May, yeah.
Out of Pittsburgh, the number 20th pick. I got 2 more for you.
All right.
I want to know the hogs that had multiple Super Bowls and Pro Bowls. There's 2 of them.
Multiple Super Bowls. Yeah, Jake and Russ. So there's multiple hogs that have multiple Super Bowls, right, Kev?
Not with multiple Pro Bowls as well.
Oh, not with multiple Pro Bowls.
The question is multiple Super Bowls and Pro Bowls.
So Russ.
You got them both. You got them both. I just wanted those 2 recognized. Those are my premier hogs. Those are my guys. I think of Russ Grimm and Joe Jacoby and vice versa when I think of the hogs. I just wanted to have that conversation real quick. All right. Which hog acted in the soap opera Guiding Light from 2007 and under the name as Rock Hoover?
I mean,
that had to be Boston.
No, John Riggins.
No.
It wasn't John
he's
Riggins?
An honorary hog.
Oh, shoot. I know this. Say the name again. Rock Hoover?
Rock Hoover in A Guiding Light in the soap operas in 2007.
Stink.
I know the other hogs were pissed.
Stink.
It was Stink.
It was Stink.
It was Mark Schlereth. Absolutely.
And he earned his nickname, too. His nickname was well earned.
I believe that. Last one. Which hogs were college teammates and drafted the same year by Bobby Beathard and the Washington Football Redskins?
It was Pitt, right?
It was Pitt.
Mark May and Russ Grimm.
Yeah, and they were never all that close. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I think Mark May kind of did his own thing a little bit. But, yeah, there you go, man.
Well, I don't think I would have got that if you just asked the Mark May question, because there was a lot of Pitt guys around Russ towards the end of his career. Obviously, he ended up back in Pittsburgh briefly, but the one thing that you had touched on, Kev, about Joe Jacoby, that is Joe Jacoby belongs in the Hall of Fame. If anyone out there is watching, you have any power or pull. The fact that a guy played left tackle for the greatest offensive line in the history of the National Football League, one of the most amazing running games ever imagined, coached by a legend named Joe Bugle, who had to line up against Lawrence freaking Taylor whenever they had the chance, or whoever the other team's best guy is. The fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame makes the Hall of Fame a joke.
And Lawrence Taylor said, the toughest guy I ever went against. is that dude down in Washington who not only played left tackle for us, but as a teammate went over to the right side, played right tackle, and wound up as guard. What a freak of an undrafted talent from Louisville. And you know what? I think we heard the sun, the moon, and the stars collide the day he shook hands with Joe Bugle.
I'll tell you what, I want to. We get to the Jake makes the Hall of Fame, but I tell you guys, I got some user submitted either ors tonight. So I wanted to give you guys a chance to. These are going to be football related tonight. We're going to go football related.
All right.
Submitted, and I got them how here. All right. So this is from Greg. He said, you know what, you guys can need some help. He's talking about cereal and soup and Pirates and Ninjas. Help a brother out.
Give that man a menu.
Give that man a menu. Okay, so here's his first one, and I think there's some good ones here. So ruminate, and Monsignor's on the board, so he can help us out. You can watch all of the NFL regular season, but only have someone fill you in on the playoffs and Super Bowl after it's over, or you can't watch anything until the Super Bowl and someone fills you in on the season right before it.
All the regular season.
You would forego the most important part.
I want to watch freaking 16 games every weekend, not one game. I want to watch 16 times 16. Come on, T, you got it.
Well, considering one of my best friends is Raymond here below me, he would give me a great recap of the season, and I would enjoy the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
I'll give you the drunkest recap of the season you so desire, my friend.
I think 16 weeks or 17 weeks of 16 games per is
Dallas sucks.
Yeah, I don't know if I could get away from that much TV option.
How can you not, when all the TVs are on and it's all happening, woo!
I'd go watch all the college and the high school games is what I would do.
Yeah, there's other stuff to watch. You can pick any one year where your team is guaranteed to win the championship but will never again in your lifetime. Or take your chances knowing it might never happen or it could happen more than once.
Number two.
I'm taking my chances.
Yeah. I think that's probably the easiest one he sent. That's all we've been doing is taking our chances.
Or else you're just making a deal with the devil.
We can't make any deals with the devil. We cannot make deals with the devil.
Crawfish that devil and shoot him right in the ass.
What would be the point of sports knowing they'll never win it again?
Well, that you get one. I mean, I think he's speaking from a standpoint of Washington Redskins fans who've never experienced one ever.
Nah, it was way better following those 3 Super Bowls, the Caps and the Nats. That journey of up and down, I love it. For better or for worse, yep. I love it. 16 losses and 1 win. That 1 win becomes 16 times sweeter.
All right. Your team traded for your least favorite player of all time, or your teams trade away your favorite player of all time.
Trade away the favorite. That means he's got to be my favorite because he's up in age. It's a business. It happens. There's 4-year contracts. Guys get cut for nothing. I don't want to assume a turd. No turds. I don't
want anybody else's turd. Thank you very much.
Exactly. I agree.
I'm with you guys. We've traded for my least favorite players, and I've hated it. When we traded for Deshaun Jackson, it made me so sad, just beyond sad. Or signed him, however the hell he got to our team, it makes me just, hate. I hate that. When we traded
Mark Sanchez started a quarterback for us a year and a half ago. We were there together. My son saw it.
I know. People saw it.
Little dog.
Tens of people saw that game live. It was ridiculous.
Yes, hundreds. There was hundreds there.
It might have been hundreds. All right, I like this one. This is a good one. For the big game, to fill in what that game is. Would you rather be in the luxury box with people that don't care as much about the game, but have all the creature comforts, or in the cheap seat bleachers with rowdy fans, but with an uncomfortable seat and a crappy view? I think I'm taking the crappy view on the uncomfortable seat, personally.
Uncomfortable.
I've sat in that seat many times, and I loved every second of it.
Uncomfortable, crappy, cheap seats. I get it. Put me there.
Did you see how you guys carried me up the steps of the WCAC championship game?
I couldn't see for 2 days.
Yeah, Kevin, I was afraid I was going to have to pay workman's compensation after that.
That's more of an indictment of me than talking trash about our boy. Sometimes you turn 40 and forget that you turned 40.
He's lost some weight, though. I think we could do it. I think we can.
Got a lot more to go, but I'm thinking of you guys, actually.
We appreciate it.
I'm on a strict diet just so I can make it up to the box and down for the WCAC championship game.
Coach Gutt called this week. He said, "Hey, we're thinking about putting in a ramp," and I was like, "Don't you dare! That's what Kevin and I got this. Okay, we got this."
Joe Murphy deserves some credit here.
Oh, some credit. You know me. I'm all sound effects. I'm just like, but you guys did all the work. That's like that is every single week. I did nothing.
I look like Michael Spinks after he fought Tyson.
We missed some guy named Paul from the Gonzaga parents.
Oh yes, mate.
Great guy.
The best guy. Just got right in there. It was amazing.
If my mind wasn't fried after that athletic endeavor, I might have remembered his last name to say thank you.
All right, I got one for you guys. Puts us in current mindset of the current scenario. All right, so Greg suggested this one. He said, no season at all due to COVID-19, or your team makes it to the Super Bowl and is favored, but they have to cancel the game because of COVID-19.
Oh, any football is better than no football.
I'm with you. T, you got that? So, T,
yeah,
we're taking the season, right?
Yes.
I agree. I think Greg's one of those guys who I don't know if he would be able to live with being on the cusp of a championship. He can't get over the Yankees losing to the Astros. He thought the Yankees should have made it.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that thought. It's just easy. It's an easy answer on my end, but I can get that. I can see people, the torment. My dad would be just crushed, inconsolable for a month. I get it.
Gormley asked one bottle of Redbreast 27 or a case of Redbreast 12. I mean, give it the case. Are you kidding me? Come on, Charles.
Come on.
Bring it on.
It's
quantity. If he knew what I was drinking right now, he'd understand.
Drake had one more really good one. Oh, let's see. Be stuck watching every game with someone that doesn't know anything about sports and ask basic, obvious sports questions, or a know-it-all that won't shut up with unnecessary facts, comments, and opinions.
Hey.
Basic, obvious.
Yep.
We love teaching about the greatest game ever invented. We love spreading the good word. I don't want to hear about it from some turd.
That was, by the way, Eric Anderson, just seeing your name up there. Hail to the Redskins, sir. Good to see you tonight. Always appreciate seeing you guys. Greg, job well done. Appreciate it. As you know, if you guys send us stuff to read, I'm just a big dumb animal. I'm just reading in front of the camera and have these guys answer questions. I love stuff like this. And we've been on for an hour. We pushed it tonight.
Whoa!
I know. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. It's so early on a Tuesday night. But I do want to say thanks to you guys for carving out some time on a Tuesday night. We'll be back. Kevin, T and I were talking about it the other day. We got to put our basement. We have to have a basement plan. We haven't put all the scenarios in place. We're watching everyone make scenarios around us.
Phases. We need phases.
We need phases. I got a phased plan. I think the patio might give us a phase. We might have a patio phase for out in the green room potentially. I mean, the basement is going to be all tore up here, or it's going to have some obstacles. But we got to figure out phases so that we can start to put ourselves back together, maybe fill those boxes with a couple cool people. Maybe we can get some of these guys to jump in. I'd love one of these nights to have the three of us together and Skype in. One of our regulars, to answer a couple questions and help us work through some things. And then obviously, we get the opportunity potentially to bring on, a Redskin or someone associated with the team to chat with us about, what's happening with our favorite organization.
Sure. We can get low-key faded, brother. We got
Gotta
this.
get low-key faded. You got to be able to. If I could just do a slow fade, watch this slow fade. It just goes right over. Look at that slow fade to Kevin Ricca. Look at that slow
look,
fade.
is that Zeke Elliott? No, it's me.
I call that. Let me tell you. I got a little something else for you. Now this one I call the Forestville throttle fade, and it just goes a little something like that. Oh, look, there he is, little Tim Strachan wearing all caps.
All right. I'm faded.
Just if Luke's not going to be here, if he's going to let me push buttons and play with the board, that's what's going to happen.
Can you do that again and perfectly center Kevin's head in my head and see how small my head is compared? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
And
yeah,
listen,
too late. Too late.
There's no big head fade. We don't need to do the big head fade. We don't.
Right. I'll try to right. I'll try to get right in the same spot as Kev. So much smaller.
Give the stink eye.
Now you're talking. This is podcast basement magic.
We can do magic.
Charles Gormley, if you're on your however many whiskeys you're on, whatever you're seeing, he's seeing three of you at this point in time. Luke's
Call
never gonna.
911, Charles Gormley.
I'm never going to be allowed to do this again. I'm going to be banned from doing it.
Come back.
Hold on, Kev. Give it 1 second. I got something for you. Here we go.
Okay.
You ready?
Whoa, wait, take it easy.
Whoa.
I don't have a fast enough throttle fade on that. James Rainey, by the way, is loving your shirt, T. He's dying for some Caps love, and I knew it was going to be a matter of time before he was able to catch on. Is that happening? Can we just? I know the NBA. I know the MLB. Is the NHL? Is their plan laid out?
Yeah, it's laid out. It's on ice right now.
It's on ice. Well, they don't call him the best color man in the business for nothing, folks. Kevin Ricca, everybody.
Yeah, I told you it's laid out. They were supposed to go down to Orlando. 50 people, 4 organizations. Choose to bench out, make it all work. I don't know what's happening.
All right. Well, we're going to find out. Get James Rainey. Give us some updates. But we will be back. I hope everybody enjoys the 4th of July. Make sure they see my dad gave me a call the other day. He's like, hey, that's my grandfather's Marine flag. I keep there, right? It's always front and center. Make sure it gets on screen. July 4th means a lot of things to a lot of people. I always think about my grandparents, and that I think about them all the time, anyways. But certainly, any day where the Liberty Bell and the flag and all the goodness of the possible greatness that we can hopefully get to again at some point in this country, we owe to people like our grandparents, and that's what that flag's all about. Certainly, my grandparents and yours had a lot to do with that. I point to the screen over here. That's where you guys are, in my view.
Yeah, man. Hey, July is one of my favorites. I love it. I cannot wait. Hey, no gift giving. You don't have to bring or receive. You just show up. You're with your family. It's a nice summer day. We all pray for it. Little barbecue, smell the grill. Hear that hose, hear that sprinkler, and let's get after it, fellas. Celebrate being an American and what it means to us.
I'm drinking from the hose that day. No one's gonna stop me.
Got to.
I gotta hold it up. Just let it get cold. It's a little bit warm. Let all the bugs get washed out, and then and you're not washed out. Washed out. I'm gonna let them get washed out. Drink some cold hose water. The way it was meant. The way it's meant to be.
I'm drinking everything on Saturday. That's a fact. That's
yeah. Like
it's in my family. It's just sleep where you lay, and I'm real. I guess it's a little different this year, but there's a hammock with my name on it. So.
Well, the good news is, I mean, it's so weird. We're already to July 4th and we're not talking baseball. But guess what? We will be soon. Greg Martin, get used to seeing a little bit of these, especially on opening day when the Washington Nationals take on the New York Yankees.
Oh, phew.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be curly W's left and right. And we got a little bit of Caps and a little bit of Nats and Yankees trash talking going on the board. Why don't we call it for a week, guys? I once again appreciate you guys. Tim Strachan, pride of DeMatha. Happy 4th, sir.
Happy 4th to everybody. This show reminded me that I think 2020, our mantra should be refreshed. Everything needs to be refreshed. The skins need to be refreshed. COVID needs to be refreshed and out of here. Society needs to be refreshed. We need a refresh. Let's get a refresh on 2020. I'm looking forward to next week, though, with you guys. Happy 4th, everybody.
Kevin Ricka, happy 4th, sir.
Ken, I appreciate that was a curly W and not your nipples. And T, I'm looking for a refresh as soon as we get off this podcast, my brother. And a bunch of them on Saturday. Happy 4th to both you guys, man.
So everybody hanging out with us this evening, and certainly anyone who's checking us out throughout the week, have a happy, safe, healthy 4th of July. We will be back next Tuesday. I want to say thank you to Luke David, Victor Maddox, again, Kevin Ricken, Tim Strachan. On behalf of the team here at First Amendment Sports, I'm Ken Marangolo. Thank God it's Tuesday. And I'll tell you what, we got something for you guys. We are still live. We are still live until I figure out how to turn us off. Vic, we're out.
Take a look at my hog, man. That's my hog right there.
I love it.
A nice hog, isn't it?
It sure is, Kevin. Let me see. We're still live. Eric Anderson, we're still live.